Welcome everyone to our webinar, Put Your Data to Work with Conga ActionGrid. Before we get into the actual demoing portion, just a few housekeeping items. Everyone's on mute, but we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If you have questions that pop into your head throughout the presentation and the demo, please put them in the chat box, and we will get to as many as we can with the time allotted. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle Hagen, who will be running through some different ways that you can use your Salesforce data more effectively today. Kyle, take it away.
Thank you, Haley. So I'm here today to talk to you about ActionGrid, which is a tool that Conga offers to kind of accelerate your sales process and just in general help you utilize and adopt Salesforce better within your own org. So I'm going to move to, oopsies, that's not the right one. I'm going to move to the Salesforce. And first we're going to start off talking about just a little intro into list views. So I mean, most people use list views. It's something that people typically do with it on their daily basis. So list views are nice because you can sort and filter data. You can have fields on here that you care about. You can move them around. But the problem is when you go to take action on some of these records that you can't do it without clicking into a screen. You click on this 3C Systems. We go into here. If we want to edit it, we have to click into edit, right? We have to go through a lot of processes just to interact with our data. So what ActionGrid is here to do and kind of saves the day in doing is it allows you to view all of the data you just saw, but allows it also to be actionable. So what we're going to start is we're going to take a walk through the different personas who would utilize Salesforce and how ActionGrid can help improve their daily use of Salesforce. So the first one we're going to go through is going to be an admin. So admins typically have the struggle of changing lots of data, importing and exporting data in and out of Salesforce using data loader and other tools. And what ActionGrid can help here is it can actually assist people in changing their data on a massive scale. So, and what we're going to do here is we're going to pretend that someone has left the company, and what we want to do is we want to transfer a number of accounts to other individuals. So in this example, we're going to take this owner field that we have here, and using Excel-like filters, we're going to actually filter down into the person who left the company, which in this case is going to be Alex, or actually let's do Ryan. And so then what we can do is we can actually change this owner here in line without having to click into anything. We can change the owner to somebody else. So let's change it to me. Then what I can do is, again, using Excel-like functionality, is I can lasso a bunch of records. I can then click on this Actions button, and I can click on Batch Edit, and I can fill down these records, which is going to change all the owners. And then when I click Save, all of Ryan's accounts are now my accounts. So doing that in Salesforce would have required a lot more than just those clicks we have, and now we can't see those, so because I'm filtered on Ryan. But if we clear them again or select mine, you can see those accounts are there now. So that saved us a bunch of time. We didn't have to pull any data out of Salesforce. We didn't have to edit it outside of Salesforce, and we didn't have to use data loader to put it back into Salesforce. Another thing that ActionGrid allows us to do is to have a list view-like experience inside of Salesforce, as you saw before, but we can do that on other levels too. So right now we're looking at a filtered view of accounts. If we clear this, we're looking at all accounts. But what we can do is we can have preset multi-tabs here in order for people to interact with their data better. And as an admin, this is helpful because you can see subtypes of and subgroups of data. NFL accounts is going to be just accounts that have the NFL division, or this have the NFL record type here. So we filtered this here. This is pre-filtered to load whenever this tab is clicked. So as an admin, you can actually utilize some of this pre-filter functionality to more efficiently interact with batches and groups of records. Another thing we can do with ActionGrid as an admin is on the fly configure our ActionGrid. So we can click this configure menu, and inside of this account fields area, we can actually add accounts. So let's add the number of employees for each of these accounts here. You can see it thinks for a second, and then it'll add that to the grid. And so on the fly, we can change what we're viewing. Instead of having to go into an edit mode and add fields and add new filters, we can do that all here. On the right, you can see related records, and we'll kind of move into that in another persona. But the idea here is that you have your related records for a selected account here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go to a different persona. The next persona we're going to talk about is going to be an end user. And the use cases I have for an end user, they're twofold. So we're going to do a sales end user, and then we're going to do a customer success end user, or customer service end user. So The first end user is going to be that salesperson, so someone who's working and interacting with leads. You can see there's a list of leads here. What we can do here is, as we already kind of mentioned, we can edit and line this information about this lead. We can actually use Excel-like movement through this grid. So I'm using Tab right now to shift through here and Enter to go up and down, which is nice for the person who's already familiar with Excel. That can help there. I can edit this information in line like you saw before. I can change this to qualified. But the most important thing I can do is I can interact with these related records that you saw a second ago. So in here, we have tasks associated with this current lead I've selected here, Bill Clinton. So if I want to interact with this task, I can do the same thing as I could on the left. In this reading pane area, I can actually change this information if I like. I can change this to anything I like. And then secondarily, I can see that there's this big description long text field here. So I can actually add information about what this call entailed. Left a message and set up follow-up. And then I can click Save, and you'll see that that saves as part of that record. On top of interacting with tasks that already exist, an individual can actually create new tasks in line. So that's kind of nice because you don't have to leave the page. You don't have to click a button to go into a new window. You can just click the information here, fill this out. I can complete this task because it was a call. I can set it to Bill. Sorry, lead. We're not leads, not on contacts. Type was a call. And then I can save this, and we have a new task. So that's kind of nice as well, so you can actually go through here. But let's say you have called a bunch of leads and you actually want to update tasks for all of them. Another feature we have is this batch add functionality. So on the left here, you can actually highlight a group using that lasso functionality we talked about. Click on Actions, and actually batch add tasks here. So if I batch add a task, I'm adding the same tasks to all the selected records. I'm going to set the owner to myself. I'm going to call today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to complete this because it was a call. I can say the subject was, second call. And then I can set description to be like, left message again. And I click OK. It's going to think for a second. We've successfully created 6 records. I'm not going to view them in another action group, but what that will allow you to do is to say, here's a subset of tasks I just created, and I want to change certain aspects of them. So we could do that if we wanted to, but I don't need to do that. If we refresh this grid now, we can see that new call is there, that second call one again, and if we click on the next record, we can actually see that there's a second call as well. So that allows a sales individual to work through a list of a call list, basically, and have all these tasks assigned here. The next use case we're going to talk about is going to be a customer service person, someone who's interacting with cases. It's like a case queue, and they're going to need to see a lot of information. So we're going to talk about that related area more. So this would be like a case console, right? You have cases on the left-hand side. You have an order of them. You can filter on the contact subject. You can do all that kind of Excel-like filtering we were talking about before. So let's say I only see my cases, or let's say we want to see Adam's cases because I think he has cases. You'll notice that there's this My filter here too, just in case you actually want to have it set dynamically for whoever's logged in. So you click filter, and now we're looking at Adam's cases. You can also filter on ones that are open, so we don't want to see closed cases. Those aren't active. And now we have a case queue for Adam. We've built that in seconds. On the right-hand side, you'll notice that we have a kind of interesting new and a different reading pane than we saw before. So this is actually using the ability to load Visualforce pages in the reading pane. We actually created a related list set. So what we have here is information about the account of the selected record here. So this is the Denver Broncos account. We have some information here that might help the person who's working that case queue. We also have related lists associated with the cases. So these contacts, activities, opportunities, and cases are actually siblings to this case right here, which is very helpful if you're trying to figure out, what cases have been done before, which opportunities are open for this count that you might want to talk to with regard to solving this issue. So you can really utilize a lot of that massive amounts of information that ActionGrid can have on one page. So this is something that someone can click this full screen mode and just sit in all day. They can sit here and work their case queue all day, refreshing this to see if new cases are coming in. That's kind of the idea with the service console. The last persona that we kind of want to talk about is going to be the leadership. So we're going to talk about leadership or executive persona. So people who are managers or people who want to see report style action grids. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at opportunities. So right away, you can kind of see that there's conditional formatting that's drawing color to certain fields. So that's another one of those Excel-like functions that we have, is to set conditional formatting. And you can see over here as well, you can see a formula field that we created. So you got the idea there that we can create formulas, we can create Excel conditional formatting, and that can actually like bring a lot of attention to certain fields on your grid. The main point here is that we want to see report-like data in ActionGrid. And so let's say you're an executive and you want to see how your pipeline this month looks. So we click on this month, which is a tab that we have preset for opportunities this month in this view section. So this is all opportunities that are closing this month. You can again see the conditional formatting drawing attention to fields, tasks that need to be, or activity, opportunities, I'm sorry, that need to be acted upon, or any kind of big money deal. You can actually do sorting to show those at the top. You can do that kind of Excel-like functions. If you want to have these up here, you can actually change how this looks. You can see the amount first and the account first if those are the more important fields. One of the important things we can do here is we can actually start grouping. So I can take this column header here, and you can see I can drag it around. If I drop it up in this area, I can actually group by stage. Right now I can see subgroupings and aggregates of information. So I have 5 closed won, I have 1 decision makers, and I have 6 needs analysis, etc. I can actually expand those fields if I want to see information about them. I can have amount aggregate information in those groupings, which is really helpful when you're trying to determine which stages are going to give you the most money in your month. And that's helpful for knowing which opportunities are where, so you can start pushing on, let's get these moved forward. Let's try to get these opportunities out of this stage. And the way you do that is you'd click this select all area in this grouping header, so we can select a slab type. We don't want to do closed won. Those are already won. We already won those ones. Let's do needs analysis. So if we click needs analysis here and click actions, we can actually batch add chatter, which will open up this window. We can say, please get these to the next step. I click OK. All right. And then what we can do is, just to show you exactly what we just did, we can actually open up the reading pane here. Sorry about this. You can see I'm doing this kind of on the fly again. I'm adding, not only just data and fields, but I can actually add other configuration aspects as well. In the reading pane, there's this chatter tab, which is kind of nice. Again, you see this reading pane for long text fields. This chatter tab, if we select this record here, we can see that there's a new chatter. Please get this to the next stage. So, and now everybody who's the owners of those accounts, who follows those accounts, will see these information, especially if you tag them in it. So that's helpful if you want to try to push sales processes further. Let's close this reading pane out. Another way we can view this data is, instead of by stage, we can actually group it by owner. So we can say owner here, right? Then we can see who's got what in their pipeline, and we can actually set meetings this way if we want to. We can utilize this batch chatter again. We can create tasks if we wanted to create tasks for individuals. We can send emails to individuals if we want to set up different types of interactions with them, if we need an email instead of a chatter. So all that stuff is functionally happening from this report. So what we've built here is an actionable report. And if you work with Salesforce reports, you kind of know that when you run the report, you get a bunch of data, and that's great, but you can't really take action on that data from the report screen. But here we have this similar idea that we can filter and group by certain fields on the object, and then be able to act on that information from here. One of the really important things to notice about ActionGrid is that we are just utilizing Visualforce pages. So that's kind of the end of those personas. Those 3 personas are the ones that we've kind of elaborated on a little bit here. Those use cases are familiar and ones we've looked at. But I kind of want to talk about ActionGrid as a integration into Salesforce. So these are just Visualforce pages. This tab up here is a Salesforce Visualforce page tab. But we can also have ActionGrids inside of page layouts. So if I click on this Denver Broncos account here, you can see that I have a related list action grid here. So not only can we utilize it from a top level view, but we can have action grids here of all the related data. So if you see there's 20 contacts here, and we go down to our related list, there's 20 contacts, but we can only ever see 5 at a time on this page, right? What we can do here is we can see up to 100 or even 1,000 if we have that many records on this one thing, without having to go up and down and all around and navigate through Salesforce and try to figure out where we started. And you can see all the same functionalities happening on the page layout here. We have all these records that are all editable in line, right? And we have the reading pane over here to utilize the the long text fields, if we want to see the tasks associated with the accounts, if we use Chatter to do record tracking or any kind of conversations here, and actually some campaign member stuff if you are inclined to utilize campaigns. Yeah, let's see. So as a suite, as a tool in a suite for Conga, we can also utilize things like some of the other tools that Conga offers. So we can run queries from here as well. Um, we have very good at product integration, so we can kind of work with the whole suite of tools together. One of the things you'll notice is that a lot of the stuff I did today, going through accounts, leads, cases, and even opportunities, is stuff that normally would take a very long time to do and to change information for. So it's kind of interesting to see, like, think about what processes you have in place and what types of things that you can improve if, you didn't have to go in and out in different tabs and different records all the time. So, um, yeah, I think that kind of sums up the demo part of the presentation, Haley.
Great. Can you flip back over to the slides for me?
Sure.
Excellent. So we've already got a few questions coming in, and we're going to get to them in just a second. If you have any questions, please enter them now, and we'll do as many as we can. While that happens, I want to remind everyone in our audience that Conga ActionGrid is available right now on the App Exchange. All you need to do is go to the App Exchange and search for ActionGrid, or even Conga will get you there. And then you can easily install into your Salesforce instance today just by clicking that Get It Now button. Let's hop into that, Kyle. Starting with, does inline editing still catch any of the validation rules that are part of the object? Would it stop them from updating if they have to complete another field at the same time? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so yes, because we're doing just normal Salesforce updating via the Salesforce methodology, you will have things like workflow processes, process builder, or workflow things, and validation rules all still working because of the way we're entering data and the way we're saving data. So if you can't set a stage because an opportunity's record type is a certain way, then that stuff is still set in it still works from ActionGrid.
Okay, great. So on top of that, we honor all Salesforce security rules and field sets. So if you can't do something in a record, or if you can't see something in a record when you're on that individual record, you wouldn't be able to do it in ActionGrid. I think that's important to note as well. Next up, I think this is in reference to the case management demo
Hmm.
portion. Would this take the place of Sales or Service Console? So I think absolutely it could. Kyle, and can you confirm we integrate to both the Sales Cloud and the Service Cloud?
Yeah, and since this goes back to that whole Visual Force page portion, so basically, since it is just a Visual Force page, it can be utilized inside of those Sales and Service Console, but it can also be used as an alternative or in line with it. So some places utilize Service Console for only a set amount of their organization, and sometimes this is pulled in on the back end to like show everybody a similar view, and so that's kind of the option there, is that it can, but it works in line as well. So it's not one or the other. It can be both.
Great. Um, can you mention someone when you batch chatter?
Yes, you can. There's some work going into helping you out the same way that a normal chatter post will do it, but you can still mention them without, like, right now. It just doesn't have that little assist thing on the bottom. But yes, you can do that.
Great. Um, Someone wants to see a bit more of a demo, so I think this is something we can accommodate. Can you hop back over to Salesforce and show how you would build a new grid on the fly?
Sure. Yeah, that's perfect. So, ActionGrid as an admin is usually really easy to use. So we've set up a bunch of wizards that you can utilize when you're creating action grids. Right here, this is kind of what Haley was talking about earlier too. This is where you can control all of that security. So naturally, we inherit that security here, but you can actually go into here and set all of the security stuff as well. Turn off things like mass update or batch delete, and change object visibility. So this is where you go for do that. And if you select an object, you can actually go in here and utilize our tabs and related list wizards to create new grids. So let's say I wanted to create a new assets grid, and maybe this isn't. Let's see here. We'll click on. Or I'm sorry, we're creating an accounts grid here. So I wanted to create a new accounts grid, and I want it to be set for a different view. Like, let's say I want to see all the MLB teams instead of the NFL teams. So what I can do is I can say, AG MLB accounts, and I click OK. And then since it's a visual first page, I can go and create a new tab, but I'm just going to show, I guess I can show that. That's fine. So this is all Salesforce stuff we're doing from here on out. So we just created the page. It did it without you having to ever look at Visualforce at all, right? So we click that button, click New, and I can select that from this list of things here. So let's sign that AG MLB tab I just created. Looks like there's a bunch of them. MLB accounts, and I can say MLB accounts AG. That way people know it's an action grid and not just a normal list view. Then I got to select the tab style here. Just going to use airplanes. Oopsies. Okay, we're going to use alarm clock instead. Oops. So that one already exists, and sorry. There we go. Click next, and then we can. This is stuff you can set here as well. This is the profile for the tab if you want to have it on certain profiles. I don't want to include this everywhere. I just want to include it in Action Grid. So let's see. Let's hope I didn't run out of tabs here. Click Save. And now we've gone in just a few clicks, less than a minute, minus my small amounts of bumbling, to having a new, oops, did we run out of tabs here? Having a new tab here. So let's click this little plus button. We can go MLB accounts right here, AG. So that's the new tab we added. And you can see right there off the bat, there's an action grid that's about to load. Along with this though, so we set the view manually here. If we wanted to create something new, you could actually go in here and say, I want to actually create a new view. So I can click New View, and then I can utilize just that whole idea here of creating, like adding and subtracting the fields and changing the reading pane to create a new view. So I can say like, my MLB accounts, right, can be my new view. I can set the view security here as well. We usually set to public read only. You can make it a default view, turn on all this stuff as well. Click OK, and then you have your new view and set, and you can actually configure it from here too. So let's say, I said my, so I obviously want to add this owner field. So I click that, add it. I can filter by ones that I own. So we'll unselect all of these, click the Kyle Hagen, filter there, and sorry, we're going to do the my filter, my bad. So we click my and filter, and it should show the same thing. And then now, since we've modified that view, says modified, I can click Save View, and it'll actually save that view. And now this view is in line for us to use on any accounts grid right here.
Great. We've got a couple of questions about Lightning. Is ActionGrid Lightning ready, and do you recommend if using Lightning?
Yeah, it works perfectly fine in Lightning. We just chose to demo in Classic mode. It's just a Visualforce page, so it can go, again, wherever they can go, and Visualforce pages work fine in Lightning. We are in the process of building a Lightning component as well, so you can utilize that alongside of the normal Lightning interface. So both options both options work, and one option is in process of being built. So.
Great. And I think it's just a personal preference on whether you want to use Classic or Lightning and what your users are comfortable and what they're already using. I think we'd recommend that you make your decision based on which format your internal users are going to be most comfortable with. A question on Visualforce pages. Are the Visualforce pages available for download with ActionGrid, or do we have to create them ourselves?
Right now, creating them yourselves through the wizard is how we do it. So basically, you would create a view. So you can do what we just did to create a view, and then you would use that view to create a new page using the wizard. So no, there's none available for download currently, but we do have no, there's none available for download currently. Is where I'll stand on that.
Okay, but how can you speak to how difficult it would be to set one of those up?
To set up well, we just did that. So when we
Okay.
created that new grid, that we just created a whole new Visualforce page without even having to see Visualforce. So you are doing that with the wizard.
Okay, so it's really flexible, and as a marketer, I've built action grids before, so I can attest to it's fairly easy to build as well. How well does Action Grid work with custom objects, Kyle?
It works perfectly fine. So the way we're building these grids is using API names, and as long as every object has to have one. So that's basically that. It works perfect with custom objects. And let's see if I can find one here real quick. On the fly. Um, hmm. Let's go here. So ActionGrid View is a custom object we install, and I click on here, and you can see that there's a list already made. Boom, there you go. That's a custom object that we install when you install ActionGrid, and that's a grid of the custom objects. So that was pretty, you know, straightforward.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
Great. Um, what is the best way to show certain accounts based on certain opportunity info? For example, closed one in a date range.
Okay. So let's go to an accounts grid here. So we're on here. We have the ability to add not only account fields, but we can also add related lists, like I said before, and related columns. So this related column ability is kind of cool because what we can do is we can add a column of a related object. So in this case, we'll do opportunities. You can now see a comma delimited list of all of the opportunities there. If you click this filter, you can actually start filtering by different fields on the opportunity. So you said close date. Click close date, and we can actually filter close date. Let's just do close dates this month. We want to see accounts that have close dates, and this is our smart filter area here with these relative date things. So we'll say this month, and we filter, and now we have a list of accounts filtered by opportunities that have close dates this month.
Awesome. Back to the honoring Salesforce rules and security settings, there's a question on, where did it go? Dependent pick lists. How does ActionGrid work with dependent pick lists?
Uh, it works fine. I'm not sure I have a current example of that up that I can show, but since the fields are here already, the pick lists that are related to it are. Let's see if I can actually see it in a record type. Division. So this division is a pick list that's set by this record type over here, right? So AFC, Northwest, East, and South. If I change this to a different one here, let's see what this happens. So yeah, so we're getting, let me see if I can find another pick list. Okay, let's save it. Okay, so yeah.
I think people understand, that we didn't anticipate that question for the demo purposes, so you'll have to take Kyle's word if you want to see that built
It's
out.
actually right here. So the league is
Oh,
the dependent pick list. I'm sorry about that. So if we click here, you can see that league is the dependent pick list, not division. So when we have MLB selected, it's National American. When we have NBA selected, it's Eastern Western. When we have NFL selected, it's AFC and NFC. So yeah, there you go.
great. I think we've got time for two more questions. I'm going to throw one more technical, and then we've got some pricing stuff that people have been asking about. So where was the one? How configurable is the interface? Can we turn off features like actions, configure, etc. for all users? So I think this question's around, obviously there's a lot of power to ActionGrid, but with power comes great responsibility. So how do we control that for our users?
Sure. So that goes back to what I was talking about very briefly earlier, is this feature security area. On each object, you can actually control the features for that object, or globally, you control all the features from here. So right now, if I wanted to turn off, if I wanted to turn off deleting everywhere, I can actually disable deleting, and then I could save it for all users, certain profiles, or users specifically, and that would actually disable that feature on all the grids. If I wanted to do it on a different level, say I didn't want people to be able to delete accounts, I could actually disable delete here, and I could go to all users profiles, users, and save, and then only on the accounts object would it be disabled. So I mean, this is all the features specific to ActionGrid. The other thing we're trying to talk about here, since we're in the same vein, and I hope that answered the question. If it didn't, Haley will let me know.
I think it did.
Okay. The fields here also, we inherit these lines, these straight lines here, mean we're inheriting from Salesforce. So if they have the ability to see that in Salesforce, they'll see it. If they don't have the ability to see that field in Salesforce, they won't see it. So in the same vein here, these two things are how you set those field level securities and feature securities in the same area.
So thank you everyone so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks everyone.